So in the back of the book, we've made our way to week 18 together. And it is a week that doesn't introduce anything new. Okay? What it says is repeat, just says repeat. What we've been doing, I guess, in week 17, 16, and 17, or week 1 through 17. You could think of it in that way. And then he says, if you now find all of the standing asanas are easy enough, you can do them on alternate days or twice a week. Okay, so this has been a really heavy standing pose foray through the standing poses. And I think they definitely have built strength and flexibility for a lot of us. We start learning some more complicated poses next week. Okay? But you want to, I think the general idea is you want to keep up the standing pose work, but it doesn't have to be the focus in the same way. Okay? It's also just interesting to note that this is the third time in this week 18 that he has a week of consolidation. And so in week 7, he said, consolidate the asanas and increase the length of stay in all of them. Then he had in week 13, repeat and become steady in your daily practices. Those who find it difficult to master all these asanas within this period can continue with them for several weeks. Then we get the introduction of the headstand. And now we're on our third repetition, okay, which is week 18. Okay, so I feel like each of those things, to me, they seem like they're a bit of a unit, right? So, and really pretty much after, I guess, now that I think about it, they're pretty much after each 6 weeks. Okay? He gives us a week to consolidate things. Okay? So this is our third consolidation. So I'm going to focus mostly going forward from now and also going forward with these sequences on what's new each week, okay? Because it's really getting too much to do in an individual class unless we're doing speed yoga. Okay, so one of the things that got introduced in week 16 and week 17 was Virasana. Okay? So that's why I'm choosing to sit in Virasana right now. And in Virasana, take the height you need to sit comfortably in it. And just observe, before you make any adjustments, just observe how your shins are with respect to their connection with the floor. So I've got, particularly my right side, where I've sprained that ankle pretty seriously a couple of times, there's a pretty big gap between the front shin bone and the floor. Okay? There's also one on the left leg, but it's not as much. Okay? So to get rid of that gap and really feel that connection of the shin bones, that's really important for things like Parigasana, Ustrasana, and later down the road, Kapatasana. You have to really be able to extend through the shin bones and push the shin bones down. Okay? So we're going to work to lengthen the shin bones. So push your right foot down and lift your right knee up and get your hand not just underneath the knee, but to the top of the shin bone and pull that top of the shin bone forward. Then do the same thing with the other knee. You push your left foot down, lift the knee up, reach your hands all the way underneath the knee to the top of the shin bone and pull that forward. And then just observe, do you feel a little bit more connection with some part of the shin bone and the floor? Okay. Then lift your toes up on your right side and wiggle your fingers as far back onto the top of your foot as you can and pull your foot back. And that movement of the foot back really helps me lengthen that shin bone. And now I have much less of a gap with the shin bone and the floor. Do the same thing on the other side. And all those are manual adjustments that really do work. And now work with actually the action or the energy of action itself rather than movement. So with your mind, extend from the shin bones through all 10 toes. Spread all 10 toes. It's like your outer ankles in, your outer calves in, and your outer hips in. And as you do that, you should feel some firmness coming into the outer hips. Lift your chest well. Fold your palms together at your heart and put your thumb on your sternum. And then even here, just this opening Namakarasana, extend from the elbows through the heel of your hand. So you learn to press the heel of the hand together very firmly. And then lift up into the thumbs again. Close your eyes. One thing I really like about Virasana is that it's a taller seated position than sitting cross-legged. So it gives you a heightened sense of verticality. So as you inhale, work with that and make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, move the prana, the energy of the breath, outward toward the side ribs and armpits. Inhale, make yourself tall, increasing that verticality of your asana. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. Use that breath to create a sense of inner spaciousness. That inner spaciousness, I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago when I was with you, it's like cleaning up the house. You're having a guest come you haven't seen for 15 months. So you make the space nice and welcoming. And that's really what you do for yourself in every single yoga practice when you start off with that awareness that the breath creates inner spaciousness, so that your own sense of who you truly are is more attracted to that inner space, more inviting, more welcoming. And so you start to turn your awareness from the outer world toward the inner world, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. And from that space within, let's chant 3 hymns together. Follow the sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound with your mind. And from that space, inhale once more. Keep your chest well lifted and broad, and bring your chin down to your chest, your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And raise your head and open your eyes. Stretch your arms out in front of you. This isn't in the sequence, but it's good to work on the shoulders. Interlace your fingers and keep your elbows as straight as you can, and turn your palms towards the screen. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bones and reach your arms all the way up above your head. Extend back through all 10 toes. Suck your outer ankles in, your outer calves in. Reach up with your arms, really open those armpits. Make yourself as long as you can so you feel that abdomen draw in toward the spine. But let your trapezius muscles release away from the neck. So the armpits lift up, the shoulders lift up. You extend from those elbows through the wrist bones, but don't bring the trapezius along for the ride. It actually stays moving downward toward the spine. Feel that opening in the armpits and the drawing in of the abdomen. Then flip your fingers the opposite way so the knuckles go up toward the ceiling. And then place your hands on the back of your head. Pull your elbows in like you're getting ready to do in Shavasana. Okay. And then actually just from your armpits through your elbows, lengthen up a little bit. So you're actually just doing a little bit of a baby back arch here in Virasana. We're going to work on Makarasana in a little bit. So this is also planting some seeds for Makarasana. And then come back to straight, move your buttocks down toward the floor, and release your hands down, noticing which finger you have on top. And switch the grip of your fingers. Stretch your arms out, keeping your elbows as straight as possible. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bone. And pull the little finger back a little bit more, and then reach your arms all the way up above your head. Lift up first and get as much height as you can without moving the trapezius up as well. Let the buttocks move down, the abdomen draws in and up, and then lift up a little bit more. See if you can just coax a little bit more height out of this Padanguli-asana and Virasana. Then flip your fingers back so the knuckles go up toward the ceiling and get still a little bit more height. Then bring your hands to the back of your head. Pull your elbows in like you're going to do Shavasana or Makarasana. Use your hands on the back of the neck to lift the neck up a little bit and let the trapezius release away. And then from the armpits through the elbows, look up and let the hands support the head, and you just look up toward the ceiling. So you're doing a little bit of a back arch here in Virasana. And then come back to upright, and then release your hands down. Go ahead and come onto your hands and your knees. Move your hands to the front edge of your sticky mat. Downward facing dog is also introduced in week 16 and 17. Good. We've been doing it all along because I think it's kind of silly to wait that long, but it's just interesting to note. Right, then turn your biceps toward the front of your mat. Again, like we did in Badanguliasana, extend from your elbows through the thumb and the first finger side of your hand, pull up from the little finger into the outer shoulder. Look forward so that your thoracic spine comes in, turn your toes under, and then push back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. But now the getting the extension in the armpits is a little bit of a different, you're still after the same extension, but you have to get it slightly differently because of just the geometry of the pose. So push your hands down and forward, and that'll help you bring the weight of the pose back into the legs. But it's really the work of the legs, really lifting the quadriceps and the inner thighs and reaching back through your heels. That really gets that same opening in the armpits that you got by lifting up in Urdhva Badanguliasana. Come up under the balls of the feet, way, way, way high up on the balls of the feet so you get a little bit more flexibility in the toes. And bend your knees. Draw up from that little toe side of the foot to the outer hips. Push down and forward with your hands again. Straighten your legs. And then roll over those balls of the feet. Reach your heels back. Really feel the armpits opening as you come into a little bit of a longer facing downward facing dog. Then walk your feet together, squeeze your legs together, draw your abdomen in, move into plank pose and look forward. Really squeeze your legs together, draw your abdomen in, bend your elbows, come down and hover in Chaturanga, and then lower yourself down onto the floor. And then place your hands right underneath your shoulders, straighten your arms and come into upward facing dog. Turn your toes under and push back into downward facing dog again. We're going to do that several times during class today. So that was just the first one that I snuck in with you. It'll get a little bit better and easier as we walk along. So walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back. And come all the way up into Tadasana. I mentioned as the sequences are going along, they do get more and more complicated, and I don't want to be, just following the sequences mindlessly, thinking about but it is interesting to look at what gets added. But my own shoulders have been kind of tight lately, so I want to add in a little bit more shoulder work. Shoulder work is really a big part of really everything that we've been working on here. For instance, you can think of Namakarasana, right, up to Urdhva Namakarasana that we do in tree pose. Right? And when you reach your arms above your head, it's harder to keep that heel of the hand together, right? So try it again and come back to Namakarasana. From the elbows, extend through the heel of the hand and up through the ring finger. And so here you can really feel the wrists pressing against each other. Right? Then, knowing it's going to be harder as you reach your arms above your head, keep pressing the heel of the hand against each other as you reach your arms up into Urdhva Namakarasana. Okay. Then, pose that's introduced week 16, 17 is Ukatasana. So keep stretching the arms up as you bend your knees and sit down, moving your buttocks back behind you a little bit. But you still want to keep that upward feeling of lift through the abdomen, through the side ribs, through the armpits, through the fingers. And then straighten your legs and come back into Urdhva Namakarasana. And then bring your hands back to Namakarasana and your hands down to the side to Tadasana. So, that's just thinking about Urdhva Namakarasana and then the development of all of the Iyengar yoga poses after lie down yoga. The second pose in the book is that Urdhva Namakarasana with Virasana. And that's a hard pose for the shoulders. But over time, like if you look at things like the preliminary course, gym for women, but particularly preliminary course, we get these not new, but they're more overhead arm work. And all of that overhead arm work and the behind the back arm work helps us make our Urdhva Namakarasana better. Because we're going to do it one more time, then we're going to get the arm work going. So bring your hands together in Namakarasana. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bones and really lift that sternum up into the thumbs. Feel that upliftment of the chest. Keep pushing the heel of the hands against each other and stretching up through the ring fingers as you reach your arms all the way up. Make yourself as tall as you can so you really feel those armpits open and the abdomen draw in. And then just bend your knees. Not just, bend your knees. You can bend them quite a bit. You may tip forward a little bit, but see if you can sit a little bit lower, but stay as upright as you can. Your knees will go in front of your feet. Keep extending from the heel of the hand upward through the ring fingers. And straighten your legs and come back up into Urdhva Namaskar. And then reach your arms down into Shavasana. Then stretch your arms out into in front of you. And then just come up into Urdhva Hastasana. Turn your biceps from the outside in and stretch up through your ring fingers. Reach your arms up, but let the trapezius muscles release away from the neck. Move your arms back, reach your arms up again, and then release your arms back down to Konasana. Keep extending through the ring fingers. Urdhva Baddha again. Stretch your arms out, interlace your fingers. Keep your arms as straight as you can as you turn your palms toward the front of the screen. That's like, next week I was looking ahead a little bit and Sarvangasana 2 gets introduced, okay? And so try that again, keep your arms straight. And when you turn your thumbs toward the screen, that's really Sarvangasana 2 actions as well, right? Hard to do when you're on your shoulders, easier to do here. Then reach your arms all the way up above your head. Let your trapezius muscles release, but still extend from those elbows through the wrist bones and move your arms back. Then turn your palms the other way so the knuckles go up toward the ceiling. Place your hands on the back of the head and pull your elbows in like you're going to do upside down Shirshasana and come up onto the balls of the feet. As you do that, you have to engage your abdomen a little bit more and move work your legs a little bit more to maintain the balance. Then lower your heels down, keep your hands where they are. Extend from the armpits through the elbows and arch back, doing a standing back arch with your support of your head, looking toward the ceiling. Maybe it's seeing a little bit of the back wall, still pretty early on in class, so don't overdo. And come back to the center, release your arms down and notice which finger you have on top. I've got my left finger on top, so switch the grip so your right finger is on top. Stretch your arms out, keep your arms as straight as you can, preparing for Sarvangasana 2 next week, and pull your thumbs forward. Keeping your arms as straight as you can, come all the way up into Urdhva Baddha. Trapezius down, but lift your armpits up. Really lift and make yourself tall. Feel that abdomen draw more in toward the spine. And switch the grip of your, no, don't switch the grip of your fingers, just flip them over so the knuckles go up toward the ceiling. Then put your hands behind your head again. Use your hands to lift the back of the neck up so there's a little bit of elongation. Pull your elbows in and first come and stand on the balls of your feet. So lift your heels up. You're really are right now doing upside down Shirshasana. And I can feel the balance is challenging, so I have to squeeze my legs together. Lift up through the inner thighs. Move my abdomen in, pick a point to focus on, and all those things will help you balance in headstand also. And lower down with your heels, and then move your armpits through your elbows and arch backward a little bit. Move your pelvis forward, arch back a little bit, extend from the armpits through the elbows. And then come all the way back to Tadasana and lower your arms down. Then do Urdhva Baddha behind your back. So interlace your fingers behind your back. Lengthen up through the armpits, roll the shoulders back so you feel your collarbones getting broad. Draw your shoulder blades in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit. And then pull back like someone's come into your 6 feet of social distancing space and they're pulling their arms back behind you. Extend through the knuckles. We haven't done this in a while, but then can you join your palms together behind you? It's hard to do, but pull the wrist bones, heel of the hands together. Then you keep the palms together, but stretch your fingers out. It's hard work. And then release, notice which finger you got on top. I've got my left finger on top. Come into Namakarasana. That was my left finger. And see if now Urdhva Namakarasana is a little bit easier. We'll do the second side in just a second. Did those Badanguliasana work, Urdhva Hastasana work, help your Namakarasana. Extend from the armpits through the elbows, and then bend your knees and sit down in Ukatasana again. See if you can sit a little bit lower. Keep reaching up and drawing your abdomen in toward the spine as you sit lower still. And then straighten your legs up again. Reach your arms down into Tadasana and put the opposite finger on top for Urdhva Badanguliasana. Sorry, for Shima Badanguliasana. First, you've just got your fingers interlaced. Imagine someone's pulling your wrist bones back. So the shoulder bones move back. Your collarbone will broaden, you feel your shoulder blades on your back. Then maintain as much opening of the chest as you can, but can you join the palms together? So that the heel of the hand maybe is touching, mine isn't touching much at all on this side, but at least I'm trying. Right? And then can you keep the palms in any way together, but just straighten the fingers out and pull back through those fingers again. And then release your fingers and come into Namakarasana. Really lift that sternum up into the thumbs. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bones. Reach your arms all the way up into Namakarasana, Urdhva Namakarasana. Maybe you can move your arms back a little bit more now. Okay. Keeping the trapezius muscle releasing down. Also bend your knees. Trapezius down, extend down through the tailbone, down toward the floor. And then straighten your legs and come all the way back up. And lower yourself back down. One more arm position, hook your one thumb over the other thumb. Pull your thumbs against each other and stretch through your ring fingers. Keep pulling your thumbs against each other as you reach your hands all the way up above your head. Pull the thumbs and extend through the ring fingers and move your arms back even a little bit more. Good. And then release down. Put the other thumb on top. Pull your thumbs against each other and stretch through your ring fingers. Keep pulling against your thumbs and stretching through your ring fingers and move your arms back. Take your shoulder blades in and pull your arms back even more. And then release your arms down and bring them up into Namakarasana again. Last Ukatasana. Lift the chest up, extend from the elbows through the heel of the hand, reach your arms up into Urdhva Namakarasana. Really lift up into Urdhva Namakarasana. And then as your trapezius releases down, just follow that movement downward with your tailbone. So sit even now a little bit lower. Even if you have to bend forward a little bit more than is optimal. Sit low, lift the arms up, move the arms back like you did in down thumb pose. And then extend through the heels as you come all the way up. And release your arms down and come back and stand in Tadasana. Good. Right. So all of that's just keeping the arms above the head for a long time. Has a lot of good effect. Yeah. All right, then bend forward and put your hands on the floor. Extend from the elbow through the thumb and the first finger. Turn your biceps. And walk back into downward facing dog. Or jump if you're feeling jumpy. Push your hands down and forward. Pull the weight of the pose back into your legs. And just before we do anything more with the legs, just observe if you feel a difference in how the arms are. We spent a good 20 minutes working in with the arms and the shoulders, so it should have some discernible effect, hopefully. So what I feel is definitely more extension through the armpits, definitely more bringing the thoracic spine in. Then when I add the leg action, way up on the tops of the toes, and so the toes get some stretch and you really feel your quadriceps and inner thighs engaged. Push down and forward with your hands and pull the weight back even more. Now bend your knees, push your hands down and forward and pull the weight back more and feel how your thoracic spine draws in. And straighten your legs and then push down and forward with your hands as you pull back with your legs. And maybe your armpits open a little bit more and your head gets a little closer to the floor. All right, round two, bring your feet together.
Squeeze your legs together, draw your abdomen in toward the spine. Come forward into plank pose. Draw your abdomen in toward the spine. Really squeeze your legs together and look forward. Then keep drawing your abdomen in toward the spine and your buttocks toward your heels as you bend your elbows and try and come down into Chaturanga and lower down onto the floor. Move your arms back a little bit more and really straighten your legs. And then push up into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, also here in this week, really keeping your legs straight. And turn your toes under, and then push back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Then walk forward till your heels are right underneath your hips. And go ahead and hang in Utanasana here. Let that spine extend downward. Lift up through your quadriceps and your inner thighs and let the spine extend downward even more. Then come forward into the concave stage of legs apart Uttanasana. Get your 2 fingers on each thumb, on each big toe for Padangusthasana. Turn your biceps toward the screen, just like you did in downward facing dog. Come into the concave stage of Padangusthasana. Pull on your big toes and push your fingers back into your feet. And then bend your elbows. Move your torso down toward the floor. Let your elbows go wide. Make sure you're still lifting your quadriceps and your inner thighs. And just extend that spine downward toward the floor. Letting your torso come in closer to your legs. Backward to the concave backstage of Padangusthasana. Then put your left hand underneath your left foot, right hand underneath your right foot. Spread your thumbs toward each other, push down on the big toes, concave backstage of Padahastasana, and then bend your elbows out wide. Extend from the armpits through the elbows again. Come into Padahastasana. Feels so good. All right. Then release your hands out from underneath your feet, put them back on the mat. Walk your feet back again into downward facing dog number 4. Press your hands down and forward and pull the weight of the pose back into the legs. Feel how much more connected your hands are with the floor. And I can also feel additional armpit opening and thoracic spine moving in. All right, legs together. Squeeze, lift the quadriceps and the inner thighs. Come forward into plank. Make sure your abdomen is really drawing in. Look forward. Bend your elbows straight back. If you can hover for a second right on the floor, do so. Maybe you need to go to the floor. And then push back into another Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Make your legs as straight and strong as you can. Push down through those wrist bones and open the chest more. Look up toward the ceiling if you can. And turn your toes under. Push back into downward facing dog. And walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands in your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back. And come all the way up. Stand into Tadasana again. So the last time we worked with this sequence a couple of weeks ago, we spent more time working on the other new standing pose, which is Urdhva Prasarita Ekapadasana, where you reach your feet all the way up to the floor. And the other new standing pose that we worked on is Ukatasana, which we've done a lot of today. Yeah. The other things that get introduced in week 14, 15, 16, 17, and then consolidated in week 18 are the belly down back bends. Okay, so we're going to work on some more of those now. Yeah. Week 14 and week 15, he introduces Shalabhasana, Makarasana, Don Urasana, and Bhujangasana. Okay. And all of those poses, the belly really is on the floor. Okay. Then in week 16 and 17, he adds in Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, which is a really similar shape, but the abdomen is off the floor. Right? And also in week 16 and 17, he puts Ustrasana in with the standing poses.
which it is in light and yoga, even though we think of it as a back bend. And that's another one where you're arching back and the abdomen is free. Okay. I've been pondering that, let's say, introduction of the different modes of backward bending for these last 3 weeks. And I think there's something that we really learn from having the abdomen on the floor about how the abdomen needs to draw in when we take it off the floor. Okay, so just as we're doing these belly down backward bending poses, just have that in your mind. Okay. All right, so go ahead and lie down on the floor on your belly. I'm going to change my camera just a little bit. Now, the first one he says is Shalabhasana or Makarasana. We're going to do them both. I find it's kind of interesting that he does say or, because in terms of the arm position, they're pretty different. Shalabhasana, the arms are straight and behind your back. Makarasana, the arms are bent and above your head. But just come onto your abdomen, and for right now, just put one hand on top of the other hand and rest your forehead on your forearms. We're going to pay attention to the legs in just a second. But as you're just resting here with your abdomen on the floor, one of the reasons I think the belly down back bends are introduced first, and that's pretty consistent from Lengthen yoga all the way up through preliminary course, is because of this connection that your abdominal muscles have with the floor. So even if you're someone like me, or most people who have a tendency to let the belly just push forward, it can't really push forward that much in these poses because the floor is stopping it, right? So the floor is giving the abdominal muscles some immediate feedback and resistance that they have to stay in more toward the spine. And there's a way in which when you're in the belly down position, you don't even have to worry about that because the floor is doing the work for you. But knowing that eventually all the other more complicated back bends, you're facing upward, and you're going to have to draw the abdomen in to help support the bend of the back, right? So let's just, as we're noticing that, can you draw your abdomen in toward the spine? So move your abdominal muscles away from the floor so that the floor is giving the abdomen the suggestion, and then you pay attention to that suggestion so that the abdomen draws in toward the spine. And as you do that, maybe you'll feel that there's a little bit of movement also of the buttock flesh toward the heels and a bit of a broadening across the lower back. So that's the belly down part of the belly down back bends. Okay, now think back, now we're going to work a bit on the legs. Okay, so think back to Virasana, which also comes in this little week. And remember how we extended through our shin bones. So you're going to extend through your shin bones with your leg and foot still on the floor. Okay. So extend through your shin bone as much as you can. So just your right leg gets really, really straight, and hopefully your knees will come a little bit off the floor. Okay. And then do the same thing with the other leg. Extend through your shin bones and your knees will come a little bit off the floor. Okay. Now in Shalabhasana and Makarasana, your whole leg actually comes off the floor. Okay. So move your legs a little bit more together if you can. Now let your hands be at your sides. Okay. Extend through the shin bones, move your buttocks toward your heels. Keep extending through the shin bones as you lift up into locust pose or Shalabhasana. Stretch back through your arms, stretch back through your shin bones. See if you can lift up just a little bit more. And then lower yourself down. If you need to put your forehead on your forearms, on your hands, you can rest there, or you can turn your neck to the side. Then we'll do that one more time. And so extend through your shin bones, lift your arms up, roll those shoulders back and stretch back like someone's pulling on your wrists. And then lift up a little bit more, stretch your legs back a little bit more, look up toward the ceiling a little bit more, and then lower yourself all the way down. All right, then there's Makarasana.
Yeah, so interlace your hands like we did in the Virasana and standing. Notice which finger interlace you've got. Move your legs a little bit closer together if you can and squeeze your legs together. Then stretch through your shin bones, extend from the armpits through the elbows, pull on your head a little bit, look up a little bit more. This one's way harder, at least for me. And lower down. Switch the grip of your fingers. Extend through the shin bones, extend from the armpits through the elbows, and really lift up. Makarasana. Lower yourself down. Put your fingers right underneath your shoulders and push back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Let's see, can you feel the effect that Makarasana and Shalabhasana had on your downward facing dog? Are the armpits more open? Is the thoracic spine more in? And hopefully, from the abdomen, belly being on the floor, the abdomen is even more ready to draw in here. Walk your legs together. Lift your quadriceps, lift your inner thighs, draw that abdomen in toward the spine. Keep the legs strong and the abdomen engaged as you come into plank pose and look forward. Then bend your elbows down. Chaturanga. Oops, if you can. Hold on. Sorry, everyone. There you are. Lost you there for a little while. Okay, so you're in downward facing dog, hopefully chaturanga, upward facing dog. Some of you are really probably holding that a really long time. All right, and then come all the way down. Sorry, walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. Okay, so those are the first two, right, of the belly down back bounce. That's Shalabhasana, which we worked on with the arms, Makarasana, which we worked on. And the next two are Don Urasana, okay, and Bhujangasana. Okay, so we're gonna lie back down on the belly again. Now, there is also a version of Shalabhasana with bent legs. So we're actually going to work on that one first. Mr. Iyengar says that one is actually specifically for lower back pain. Yeah. So as you're lying down on the floor, bend your right leg up. So it's in a 90-degree angle, like you would get ready to do for Don Urasana, which we're going to do right after we do this. But it is interesting to think about this variation because it teaches the legs how to work in the bent leg position. So bend your right leg up and point your foot. Then think about Virasana and extend through the shin bone and lift the knee off the floor. Then from your knee, extend up through the shin bone and see if you get a little bit more engagement in the leg. And then release that leg down. Then do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so bend your left leg up and point your toe. Extend through your shin bone to lift the leg up. Push up through the knee to lift the leg up even more. And really feel that extension through the shin bone. It's just like Virasana. Then lower your leg down. Now move your hands to your sides. Bend both knees. Roll your shoulders back, lift your arms up, lift the legs up, extend through the shin bones. And lift the knees up even higher and extend up through the shin bones even more. And then lower yourself back down. So you actually learned that one in locust pose. Now we're going to add the arms of Don Urasana. So bend both legs and reach back and get the tops of your feet or your ankles with your hands. And to do that, you're already lifted up more off the floor, right? All right, so now draw your abdomen in, pull your legs back before you even lift them up. So you get lots of opening in the chest. Then extend through the shin bones and lift the legs up. Lift from the knees up to the toes to lift the legs up, but use your arms also and lift the legs up even more. Now kick your feet back again. Lift your legs up again. And then come into Don Urasana at this full expression for you today. And then lower yourself back down. And rest with your forehead on your forearms. All right, one more time. Bend your legs. There's also the hamstring and buttock work you can think about. But if you extend through the shin bones, it actually begins to activate the hamstring and the buttock a bit on its own. Then walk your hands back, get hold of your ankles, and then kick your feet back first. Then lift your legs up by extending through the shin bones, by lifting the knees up, by engaging the hamstrings and the buttocks, and also by lifting up with your arms. So the arms and the legs work together here. Good. And release down. Turn your toes under. Push back. You know what's coming. We've only got 2 or 3 left. Downward facing dog. What is Don Urasana? And bent like Shalabhasana, give your downward facing dog. It's nice to stretch out the hamstrings after the contraction of the back of the leg and the back bend. Walk your legs together, lift your quadriceps up and your inner thighs up and draw your abdomen in on an exhalation. Keep the leg action strong and the abdomen drawing in as you come into plank pose. Keep that and just bend your elbows straight back. Lower down into Chaturanga. If you need to rest on the floor and readjust to push up into Urdhva Mukha, you can. Or you can go straight into Urdhva Mukha Shavasana. Extend from the armpits to the elbows to the wrist bones and really push up. Good. Then turn your toes under. Come back into downward facing dog. And just bend your knees and lower yourself down into the floor. So the Chaturanga, by the way, is also introduced in this particular week. And so the fourth of the back bends that gets introduced in week 14, week 15 is Bhujangasana. And that one has a slightly different hand position because your hands are down and forward and pushing, right? Which is a preparation for Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, also preparation for Chaturanga Dandasana. So you've got arms behind the back, Shalabhasana. Got arms above the head bent, Makarasana. You've got arms behind the back again, and Don Urasana, and now your hands are in the forward plane again. Okay, so let's start off just putting the fingers right underneath the shoulders. Your legs will stay on the floor in this one, but they still have to work. So really extend through those shin bones here. Exhale, draw the abdomen in toward the spine. Push your hands down and forward and just coil up a bit. The first one, you don't have to do a lot of really, but do push your hands down and forward. Really work through the legs. That looks good, everyone. And then lower yourself down. If you think you can get a little bit higher or deeper, move your hands back, one hand's length. Now extend through those shin bones and really engage the legs. See if you can keep your legs a little bit closer together, if not completely together. Exhale, draw the abdomen in toward the spine. Push your hands down and forward and coil in your back. Extend from the tailbone all the way through the crown of the head. Push your hands down and forward and come up a little bit more if you can. And then lower yourself down. Okay, last one. You can try and move your hands a little bit more back and come up. Your arms probably will be going towards straight. You know, he has also Bhujangasana too later along the road, where his hands are actually way out in front of him. And he coils back. So if you want to give a little nod toward that, you can. And then just lower down. Okay, this is going to be our last one of these. Okay, so you're going to put your fingers right underneath your shoulders, turn your toes under, and then push back into downward facing dog. Virasana, Adho Mukha Svanasana, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, Chaturanga Dandasana. Those are the ones that get introduced in week 16, week 17, which we're consolidating in week 18. Okay, bring your legs together, lift through the quadriceps and the inner thighs, and exhale, draw your abdomen in toward the spine. Come into to plank pose. Push the floor. Look forward so your thoracic spine comes in. Legs strong, abdomen in. Then down to Chaturanga. You need to stop on the floor, and then come into today's last Urdhva Mukha Shavasana. Push down with your hands, but don't sink into your wrists. And then turn your toes under and push back into downward facing dog. And walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands in your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. All right, then set up for headstand, Shirshasana. And most of these sequences from now on, he actually has headstand first. I don't personally like to do that much, but it is interesting to observe it, so I didn't do that today. As we go on, he actually has both headstand and shoulder stand at the beginning of class. Kind of interesting. All right, so interlace your fingers, either using the wall or not. I'm a little bit away from the wall, so I can come up with two legs. Just like Makarasana, your elbows are shoulder width apart. Walk in, and then come into Shirshasana. Or whatever you do, if you don't do Shirshasana, when Shirshasana rolls around. Okay? That could be more downward facing dog. That could be one of the supine poses. It could be Prasarita Padottanasana. It could be Uttanasana. It could be headless headstand prep or headed headstand prep. And if you are in Shirshasana, we did all those belly downs. We did all that extension of the leg and extension through the shin bone. So how is that coloring or influencing your Shirshasana? At least for me, right now, the abdomen feels really pretty readily like it wants to go in toward the spine. My legs feel like they are more naturally wanting to come together. My inner ankles are a little bit closer together than usual. And then again, just like Virasana, extend through those shin bones. It's like your outer calves, ankles in, your outer calves in, and move your buttocks up toward your heels. And you stay in Shirshasana to your capacity. Next week, I was looking ahead a little bit. Some of the Shirshasana variations are beginning to be added in. If you need to come down, that's a good one too, Monica. Supta Padangusthasana. A little bit, Melinda, move your legs over to the right. That looks good, Karen. Bob, that's looking pretty strong there. Good, Vicky. All right, Chaya. Remember to come down and rest if you need to. That looks good, Marcia. Kathy, that's looking pretty straight there, actually. Your your right elbow, Kathy, has out a tiny bit too wide, but the shoulder work looks really good. Yeah. And good, Darlene. I can't see you, Laura, but I'm sure you're doing fine. Okay, so if you can, come down 2 legs at a time and stop in Urdhva Dandasana, go ahead and do that. If you can't, for whatever reason, don't. And then everyone come and rest and downward facing child's pose. And feel also, Autumn, how the belly downs affect your Adho Mukha Virasana. And does your abdomen feel just like it's willing to move away from the thighs at all? And push yourself up. Need a bolster if you have one nearby. Need one. Okay, the other new pose in this week 16-17 consolidation week 18 is Ustrasana.
we've mentioned several times before that in the light and yoga presentation of things, Ustrasana is a standing pose because you're standing on your shins, but it kind of morphs into the backward bending plan at some point, I think, more than the standing pose plan. But it's also, I've been, not so much anymore, but when I was first starting learning Iyengar yoga, a lot of times it was taught after Shirshasana as something that you could use to release the neck. The other thing that's kind of interesting about Ustrasana, if you look at it in Latin yoga, the heel, his fingers are pointed straight back, and the heel of his hand is right on the heel of his foot. So it's a nice stretch of the wrist that you need for things like Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, and you need for things like pushing up into Urdhva Don Urasana later. So stretch through your shin bones again. I've got the bolster here because I want to go back. I don't want to go super far into another back bend. That's why I have some height. But I do want to try and get my whole palm to push down into my bolster. Now, if you want to do that on your feet itself, great. But I'm really just going to try and push from that armpit through the elbow again, and just let my neck release backward after the Shirshasana, and then come all the way back up. Then say goodbye to your bolster. We just are doing one. And lie down on your back for a very similar pose in a different orientation called Chaturanga. Sorry, what is it called? Chaturanga, not Chaturanga Dandasana. So pull your feet in close to your buttocks. Make all 10 toes point straight ahead. Tuck your shoulders underneath you. We're going to do a few different rounds of this, working with different shoulder actions, okay? So for the first one, you're going to hold on to the sides of the sticky mat with your hands. Push your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Now, as you do that, make sure your hamstrings and your buttocks are well engaged toward each other. Then tuck your shoulders underneath you more. Now, move your shins toward your shoulder blades, but at the same time, pull on the sticky mat toward your feet. And those two actions, the shins toward the shoulder blades, move the shoulder blades into the chest, but pulling on the sticky mat also helps open the chest more as well, but more from the front of the chest. Right? Then lower yourself down. Yeah, the next one, we're going to interlace our fingers, and we're going to try and turn the thumbs down toward the floor. If that doesn't work for you in your neck or shoulders or anything, you can hold on to a piece of strap as close together as you're able to do and still work on turning the thumbs down toward the floor, okay? All right, so push your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Walk your shoulders in a little bit more and interlace your fingers underneath your buttocks. Now move your shins toward your shoulder blades, extend your knuckles toward the back of the calves. Now remember how we tried to keep our arms straight as possible when we were in Vinyasa? This is where that payoff really comes, because your arms are straight and they're on the floor here, but can you turn the front of the palm toward the heels? Notice which finger you got on top. Release your hands and lower yourself back down. My common tendency, pretty much anytime I interlace my fingers, is for my left finger to be on top. So that's always why it's good to do those twice, because you can notice and do the other one. So there's a little bit of balancing out whatever your natural tendency is. Okay, last Chaturanga. Press your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Make sure the hamstrings and buttocks are engaged, and tuck your shoulders more underneath you. Interlace your fingers the opposite way. Tuck your shoulders again. Move your shins toward your shoulder blades, knuckles toward the calves, and then can you turn your thumbs down toward the floor and extend the palms toward the heels? Good. And then release your hands and come down into Shavasana again. Bring the soles of the feet together and just come into this just reclining stage, flat on the floor, Supta Baddha Konasana. And feel some nice broadening across the pelvic region, but also through the back body.
Tuck your outer ankles in, your outer calves in, and your outer hips in, and you should feel some more opening coming into the hips. All right, then roll to your side and set up for shoulder stand. What's new in shoulder stand this week is taking the leg off to the side for Parshva Sarvangasana. It also has all those halasana variations, which we're actually not going to go through today. I personally am going to set up my Sarvangasana so I can walk my feet up the wall and take advantage of that hamstring, buttock, and shin lengthening work. Okay? So if you have the capability to set up in that particular way, follow along, do so. If you don't, that's also okay. My sister and I she came up to Waco for a couple of days to see my dad. And I have this little, as many taught from many of you know, I have this little cabin up there that's next to my dad's place. And I just never thought about rearranging the furniture in it, partly because none of it's really my furniture. I rent it from some friends. And my sister just rearranged all the furniture, and it's great. And you'll see the next time I teach her up there, is she also arranged it where there's a little bit more of a yoga space, and I can roll the carpet back and actually teach on some hardwood floor in there. But it also freed up some wall space. And so I can do things now up there like Sarvangasana, walking my feet up to the wall or doing a back arch at the wall. So it's like really nice added bonus. So not only just her visit, but her her interior design skills were really nice. So I've got my shoulder stand blankets. One drawback of doing this against the wall is sometimes, particularly if you have a thick sticky mat, it's hard to fold the sticky mat over very well. So I actually don't have a sticky mat on my setup right now. But I do have a strap, so I'll be okay. Then you're gonna put your buttocks on the brick, legs up the wall, head on the floor, shoulders on your sticky mat. If you don't do shoulder stand, you can do the supported Supta Satubandha or supported Supta Baddha Konasana, or just do legs up the wall pose. All right, then just like you were doing Chatushpadasana, push your feet down and lift your buttocks up high and tuck your shoulders underneath you. Make sure your hamstrings and buttocks are working toward each other, and put your strap on, or it goes above your elbows if you're using a strap. You can have the balls of the feet or the whole foot on the floor. Lock your hands onto your shoulder blades, or maybe even a little bit lower. Push your upper arms down into the floor. Push the heel of the hand up into your back. Keep your left leg on the floor, but lift your right leg straight up toward the ceiling. Now extend through that shin bone again, and feel how much that lift of the right leg actually pulls your weight off of your shoulders and your neck. Then bring the right leg down. Readjust your hands on your back if you can, and lift the left leg up. Extend through that shin bone again. Move the buttock toward the heel and feel how long your leg gets and how much lighter the pose gets at the base. Adjust your hands if you can. Then stretch both legs up. Push the upper arms down, the heel of the hand into your back and up. Extend the fingers toward the buttocks toward the heels, and really lift up through those shin bones and try and bring the legs together. Now keep extending through the left shin bone as you bring your right leg down to or toward the floor. Extend through both shin bones. Extend through the buttock toward the heels. Maybe your foot gets to the floor, maybe it doesn't. Once it's on the floor, push down with those toes and lift up through the left shin bone. Bring the leg back up. Adjust your hands if you need to. Keep extending through the right shin bone as you bring your left leg back down toward the floor. Keep it as straight as you can. Extend from the buttocks to the heels. Maybe you get your foot to the floor, maybe you don't. If you do, push down on the foot and lift up even more through the right shin bone. And then lift your legs up again. Again, connect, press the upper arms down, the heel of the hand in and up, your fingers up toward your buttocks up toward your heels. Extend up through the shin bones, particularly the left shin bone, and externally rotate the right leg. And move the right leg off to the side. And lift the leg up. Extend through the shin bones again, turn the left leg out. And move the left leg down in its trajectory in line with the left shoulder. If you do get to the floor, then you can push down with that foot and lift up with the aerial leg. And hopefully you'll get even more opening in that groin. Then bring the leg up. Come down into Shavasana. And then take your strap off and lower yourself all the way down. Now, when you're on the wall, you can't really move your head onto the same support as your shoulders, which does feel good on the brain. It really does. But you can move your shoulders toward the head side, so you're in a little bit of a Setu, which for me feels really good on the neck. You also get a little bit of extra opening across the collarbones. Now, if you did choose legs up the wall pose, you need to come off of legs up the wall pose. You can either do Jatara Parivartanasana flat on the floor or up on some blankets. But if you're on your blankets, you just slide off until just the sacrum is on the edge of the blankets. Exhale, squeeze your legs together with the legs bent and pull your legs in toward your torso. Stretch your arms out and pull your knees up and over toward the right armpit. Abdomen moves from right to left. Come all the way back up. Pull the knees in again. Keep pulling the knees in as you move your legs over toward the left. And you squeeze the legs in a little bit more upward toward your armpit. All the way back to the center. Stretch your legs up. Pull the legs in. With straight legs, can you go into Jatara Parivartanasana? Really stretch through your arms so that that left shoulder particularly stays down. Come all the way up. And then go over to the other side. It's so much harder on that left side for me. Good. And then come all the way off and come into Shavasana. Taking whatever support you need for your Shavasana. If you need some head support, take it. If you need something underneath your back, take it. Just let your eyes release into the back of your head. Your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. And clench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears drop inward. Completely relax the features of your face. Come quiet within. I've always been very grateful for my yoga practice and the role that it has in my life. But particularly during this over a year now of the pandemic. I've been even more thankful for it. Because of its capacity to help me find a sense of inner stability, even amid the ongoing flux and uncertainty of the times that we're living in. And yes, the poses are fun to do physically. It's fun to be together doing them and studying them. It's intellectually interesting to me to look at how the poses are presented in Latin yoga and elsewhere. But all of that's great and good. It isn't the true aim of yoga. Those are a means to the end. It doesn't mean that they're not important. It doesn't mean that they're not worth doing in themselves. But Patanjali says that the practice of yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. But even that is not the end. He says when that happens, we come to dwell in our own true being, abide in our own consciousness. Iyengar translates that as dwelling in your own true splendor. And that inward dwelling and the awareness that comes from being in that space, that's the aim of yoga. All of the practices are a means to that end. From that seat of your true splendor, inhale. Consciously use your inhalations to bring that awareness of your true self with you as you go about your work in the world. Place your hands on your rib cage and bend your knees. Roll over to your right side and use your hands to push yourself back up. Sit up straight and tall in whatever way is comfortable to you. Hold your palms together at your heart and close your eyes. In gratitude to the benefit you receive from your practice of yoga, in gratitude to the people you have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with, and in gratitude to the lineage of Hatha Yoga itself, as practiced by BKS Iyengar, reaching back to the sages of India and down through a line of teachers and students to you, here on the mat in Austin, Texas, or wherever you happen to be in the world, through the miracle of Zoom. Namaste.